Hello, I'm author Amin Ahmad, and welcome to One Final Twist.
We're super excited to talk to you today. So what I did a little background check to see if I get it right. Amin was raised in India, came to America at the age of 17. You are or have been an architect before
Right.
turning to writing. And I noticed that you had two other novels that were out there, and you're known for short stories. And then we get into this one, A Killer in the Family.
That's
So
right. Perfect.
tell us about The Killer in the Family. So for anybody who's watching it, you know what the basis of the book is.
Yeah, the basis of the book is there's a young guy, kind of a slacker, bit of a loser, who's a rich kid kicking around Mumbai. He's of marriageable age. He's heading for an arranged marriage, and he's kind of okay with it. He doesn't have the willpower to resist his parents, and he is matched up with the daughter of an ultra-rich real estate family in New York City. And he marries her, even though he's not really excited about it. He likes her sister a bit more. But he ends up going to New York and he thinks he's got it made because he's married into this very, very wealthy family. And he's kind of enjoying the lifestyle and he begins to realize something is off with this family and maybe it's got something to do with the serial killer that was active in New York like 10 years ago. So that's the setup for a killer in the family.
What was the original nugget that started this?
Oh boy. There's a several nuggets. One is my infatuation with The Great Gatsby, which I read as a teenager when I first came to this country, and I loved it. And I kept reading it every couple of years, and I never knew why. And then I realized, oh, Gatsby is kind of an immigrant like me. He's trying to reinvent himself in this country. So, always wanted to write kind of an immigrant version of The Great Gatsby in a certain way. And then I was driving on the New Jersey Turnpike a few years ago with kind of a failed novel under my belt, looking for new ideas for a novel. And there's this big black Lincoln Continental with tinted windows, and I could see the chauffeur in the front. And the license plate said Singh is king, and that's an Indian name. So there's like some Indian guy made all this money, right? Was driving on a Lincoln, like heading in the Holland Tunnel towards New York City. I'm like, who's that guy? You know? So those kind of interests came together, and I started wanting to write about kind of some bad Indians, people who've made a lot of money and living in New York City. Because like we're supposed to be a model minority. We're supposed to be like doctors, engineers, like just like respectable professionals. And I'm like, this guy seems like a bad boy, and that's kind of interesting. That kind of intrigued me. Yeah.
So is this based on any experiences you've had, even maybe really far apart?
Yeah, it's based on my experiences in the sense that I kind of come from a family, a Muslim family in India, and they are part of a international community of business-minded folks, and they source mates for their children, right? No matter how old you are, you're called a boy, and the woman's called a girl, so they look for a nice girl for the boy, and they look for that internationally, right? So my mom's community of people is based in India, in East Africa. There's a bunch of them in Washington, D.C. There's people in Portugal. So you have these like international marriages going on. So that's what kind of happened in my family. And I kind of saw that and kind of filed it away. Um, and also, growing up, my mom's family, there was kind of like a family secret that was it was kind of an open secret, but like I didn't realize it. So my great uncle, who was a businessman and was like head of the family business, which was a tea business. He was a tea exporter from India, very wealthy. And my great uncle was kind of an odd guy, very charismatic, handsome, weird. And when he died, two grown guys showed up at his funeral who looked just like him. Two grown men, and it turned out he had like a whole second family. So I kind of these are all different parts of my family background that I took and put into this book.
Um, do you miss where you so Ali
Yeah,
he misses where
yeah.
he misses where he was from a lot. So did you kind of draw upon that from how you feel about it?
Oh, definitely, definitely, yeah. It's funny coming here at age 17, right? Right. My parents are not the immigrant. My parents remained in India. I'm the immigrant, right? So I came here at age 17, but I was old enough to already be kind of formed by India. Um, and I was very homesick for many years. And even now I find myself being homesick for India. But then when I'm in India, I'm homesick for America. So I'm kind of stuck in the middle. So that's like I love to write stories that go between those two worlds because that's kind of where I am, and I love writing fiction because it allows me to put these two different worlds together. So it's like almost like psychologically like restorative for me to do that.
I just felt like that part when he misses, it was so intimate and specific about the sounds on the street and it
Yeah.
was very authentic. So I had to ask if that
Oh,
was.
well, thank you. Like when my grandmother came here, God bless, she came here at the age of 80 something to America, and she was in suburban Connecticut, right at my aunt's place. She looked out the window. She said, "Where are the people? There's no people." She like looked out for like an hour. She never saw anybody walk by, right? In India, there's like 1.2 billion people. It's like having silence and solitude is like unheard of. And I actually had never been alone till I came here when I was 18. I'd never been alone, And even now, I don't like being alone very much. So I do my writing in a coffee shop, and when I'm at home, I have my cat who's currently locked out of the room. But if he was let, it's just nice to have some living presence around. I really need that. Yeah.
My cats are not locked out of the room, so one of them may make an appearance at
Oh,
one
okay.
point. They've done it before.
Okay, that's great. I didn't know that was part of the rules. I would have let him. But he's a part Bengal cat, so he's very insistent and very, very vocal. Like he talks, so that might not be the
hmm
best for an interview. Yeah.
One of mine, all of mine are rescues, and one of them is a part Bengal, and yeah, he is very aggressive when he wants attention. Yes.
Exactly. Yeah, they're like part leopard cats. So,
hmm
completely. And I was like, that's where I'm from, is Bengal. Like Bengal comes
hmm
from Bengal. So I was like, oh, we're related. This is meant to be.
So, how did you think of the title for this book?
That's a tough question. Titles for books are always tough, right? And I've had situations where I've written a book and I haven't had a title for it. Um, and then you kind of have to go back and figure it out. In this one, I really wanted a title to be self-evident. I wanted the reader to be able to look at the title and say, like, oh, I want to read this or I don't want to read this.
hmm
Uh, and the idea of having killer and family in one sentence is sort of jarring. You know what I mean? Because it's like,
Yep.
oh, family is always about love and collaboration and belonging, and then there's a killer in the family. So I'm really not sure how I came up with it, but I went through a lot of titles and then like, probably like one day in the shower I was like, oh, this sounds good. Um so I wanted to kind of signal that it was like about it was about a family, right? But something is afoot. So I came up with that.
So I got to listen to the audio. I read it, and then the audio version came up on
Yeah.
NetGalley as a listen now. So
Yeah.
as soon as I saw it, I listened to it too.
Yeah.
Um, have you listened to it?
Parts of it, yeah. Holt was great. They asked me my opinion and who I wanted to read it, and I went online and I found a whole bunch of people, and they picked people from my list. So yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Well, when we did Sherry and I did a giveaway, and I kind of had sent the message to the winners too. If you get a chance to listen to it, it changed the book for me. It made
Really?
it very much more like it's immersive, authentic. Like I felt like I was getting more of the culture part between the families and the hierarchy between, Ali and his and the father-in-law. Like there was just something it gave a whole nother layer to.
That's great to hear. Thank you. Thank you for letting me know. You know, it's like when you cook something, you spend a long time cooking an elaborate dish for like Thanksgiving or something. You don't really want to eat it because you just like exactly what went into it. So I was feeling for a while about the book this way. I was like, okay, I'm done. So I've listened to snippets of that book, but I will definitely at some point this summer when I'm on the beach, sometimes I'll go back and revisit something I've written, but I can only do that like 2 or 3 years later, and I'll read it and I'll be like, oh, this is not bad. It's okay. It's not embarrassing. Yeah.
So I was looking at your website and it called this your debut novel, but yet you
Yeah.
said you've written books in the past.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, that's a good question. I wrote a couple of books under like a pseudonym. I just had like
okay.
Ahmad, like as a I put the X in there because I was writing like very much like straight up crime fiction before.
Hmm.
That was like 10 years ago, and then I took a 10-year break from writing and came back, and then I'm using my real name now, and so it's kind of like a debut in the sense of like in this space. Yeah.
If you were dropped into the Khan family, what
Yeah.
is the first thing that you would splurge on?
Oh boy, the first thing I'm trained as an architect, so that means you get paid very badly and you have very expensive taste because you've been trained to like look at nice designs. And the bane of my existence has been having like a lousy couch for years. So, yeah, we have a 10-year-old. We bought this couch when she was just before she was born. We went and we found the cheapest couch we could find in family friendly, stain resistant fabric.
Yes.
She peed all over the couch. I mean, so that couch. So that was actually my motivation to like write this novel is like we desperately needed a new couch. So I would probably like buy the nicest couch and like the nicest furniture out there that I could splurge on. But then again, I'm an immigrant, so I'm like something inside me is like, nah, you don't need a $10,000 couch. Like a really like now we have a really nice blue velvet couch from IKEA, and I'm pretty happy with that. But now that I'm older, my rule is like no more furniture assembly. So I would love somebody to just bring furniture into my house and just put it down. Yeah, I would. I would probably do that. And if I was married to the Khan family, I'd buy art. I love art. I love like original paintings. It's just so inspiring to be around. And I put a few pieces of art and I made Abbas Khan kind of a fake art lover. He's not really an art guy, but he pretends to be because it makes him seem cool. So I really I do love art. Yeah.
So speaking of the art, the you put a lot of subtle hints in the book that could be conceived as this is actually happening or the character is paranoid. And one of them is with the art when the um, people come and take away the art that is in his apartment
Yeah.
and replace it with this art that looks like meat. And Ali gets very paranoid about that and what
Right.
that means, what that says.
Yeah.
So why did you decide to do those type of things?
I think it's fun. It's fun for the reader, right? Like you don't kind of provide an answer to the question. So it could have been, so what you're referring to is Ali has like these nice uh, I think black and white photographs of turn of the century Paris in his hallway, and his father-in-law has furnished his entire apartment, including with the art. And at some point, when he's feeling uncertain about the family, the art handlers come and replace this with like these beautiful abstract photographs and gorgeous colors. And he comes close and he sees the rotting slabs of meat that have been photographed with all the fungus and decay on them. And I just thought that was fun for the reader because it's like you don't know, is that a message from his father-in-law? Is it just a coincidence and they've hired a art advisor who's just provided some art? He flips out. So I think that's kind of fun for the reader because it's more like an active reading experience. For the reader to try and put together what is actually happening as opposed to like tell the reader what's happening.
Which of the characters in the book was the most fun to write and which was the hardest?
Oh, I love to write Abbas Khan, the patriarch of the family. So I kind of based him on my great uncle, my dad. They're all like dandies, and they loved fine British tailoring and going to the tailor and having clothes made. And I wanted to make Abbas into kind of a Gatsby-esque, like kind of brutal businessman, but he has also this gentlemanly veneer, this persona he's created. So that was fun to write those different sides of him. Um, actually, for me, the hardest character to write was probably the protagonist, Ali, who's a photographer. Um, because I was kind of writing him from my perspective. And when you write something that's very close to yourself, it's hard to manipulate that, right? In terms of plot, because you're like, no, well, that's not what I would do. So I just I love photography. I'm always walking around with a camera in my hand. I kind of made him a photographer. Um, so I it took me a long time. I made him like a really nice guy at the beginning of the first drafts, like a really sweet guy. But once I f found out like, oh, he's kind of a bit of a slacker, you know, he's just like he doesn't have the energy. He's like, yeah, there's an arranged marriage. I don't want to be in an arranged marriage, but I can't take the effort to go out and break with my family. I'll just go along with it. What the hell? You know, once I got him as kind of like a slacker and kind of a bit naive and a bit impulsive and I'm a planner. I'm very meticulous. So once I could separate him from me, then he kind of took off and came to life. Yeah.
So, what is your writing style like? Do you plot or do you just write?
Yeah, that's a good question. I know, especially on the internet, there's like two schools of thought. There's like the outliners, and then there's the
Mm-hmm.
pantsers, right? Like seat of
Yep.
your pants, you just go write a novel. And I kind of, I'm an architect. So when I first started writing, I was like, oh, this is so hard. This is like really hard because everybody's like, writing a novel is terrible. It's so hard. You must suffer. It must take you 10 years. You must become an alcoholic while writing it. Um, and I was like, wait a second. Like, why can't I just design a novel the way that I design buildings, right? So when you design a building, you don't just like sit down and design a building. First, you like try out many different things. You kind of play, you make models, quick sketches. So I do a lot of like free writing and try and figure stuff out. And I allow myself to write like 100, 150 pages just like out just to check out the voice, check out the characters, see where things are going. And once I have something to work with, then I will take index cards and write like one scene per index card. So I might start off with 5 or 7 index cards so I can see those scenes. And then like what happens in between these. And I'll just keep writing on index cards. So I was like 6 months into writing the novel and I had 150 like really messy pages and then like boxes and boxes of index cards that I was terrified of losing, right? So I just do different, I take the plot and then like do another iteration just so one index card might become like 5, or I move to like bigger index cards. And then when I had the whole thing laid out, I had kind of a scaffolding to write. And that's not to say when I started writing, like I didn't make discoveries or the characters didn't go off and do their own thing. So all that happened, but at least I found writing a novel is so it takes so much time. It's hard to hold the whole novel in your head while you're writing. So I need a scaffolding within which I can operate. And that this is something I learned from screenwriters. Screenwriters write on index cards a lot, many. Oh, I see a tail down there. Um,
Yep.
before
That
they
was
jump
my
into
Ellie.
oh my goodness, that looks like my guy. Yeah. Oh wow. Wow, definitely. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Perfect. Yeah, so I just this is kind of a process that I came upon after writing many, many novels that are in the drawer. I have like 5 or 6 novels that live on my hard drive will never see the light of day. So I feel confident now that I can work this way and work and I know what stage I'm in. I'm at the stage where I'm playing, where I'm just messing around. I don't have to make it perfect. Or if I'm like in the middle of the novel and I'm lost, I'm like, oh, this is the time where I always get lost. But at least I have my trail of breadcrumbs, my index cards to go back to see what happens. And still, people say characters come to life, and they do because you put so much of yourself in them, and then 3/4 of the way through the novel, you've written them, and then the really fun moment is when they take off and they start doing things, and you just gotta like follow them and just like be transcribing it rather than writing. So that's kind of my process. Yeah.
When you're
Some authors say, sorry, some authors say, the characters talk to them.
Yeah.
And do your characters ever talk to you?
They come to life on the page, and I think it always happens like 60% of the way through the novel because you have put in so much work into like imagining these people, and then 60% of the way and you really know them and you begin to realize how they would react emotionally. And so it really does seem like they do come to life, but it takes a lot of work. It's not like a magical, mystical process. I think you put in the work and then they kind of come to life. And if you have the ingredients that are authentic and you've kind of put your like something emotional at the heart of them, right? And one of the things that I've sort of learned with writing novels is that if the plot comes out of the contradictions and the complexities of the character, then the book feels kind of cohesive, right? It's not a plot that's imposed upon the book. It's arising from the contradictions of the character. Yeah.
And this kind of goes along with what you're talking about. So your characters are very, I don't, dense is not the right word, but it's character driven. And there are a
Yeah.
lot of little um, specific details that you need to know as it's going. How do you keep them apart? Like the two sisters, this one has this quality. Like, I mean, I would, if it were me, I would need a binder per person.
Yeah, I do a lot of free writing. I do a lot of note taking. And what I found that's really I'm a very visual person. I don't know about you guys, but like I watch a lot of movies, I watch a lot of TV. Um, so and with the internet the way it is now, it's like so fun. Like I have an old African American detective, retired detective in the book who's an investigator, private investigator. And I will just go out and look at images on the internet of people's faces, like real pictures, not AI. And then I will cast my entire, all my characters, and I have bulletin boards up here. And I print out pictures of them and I put them onto the bulletin board so I can kind of look over and be like, oh, there's Ali, there's Farhan, there's Mariam. And there's something really nice about that, because you're looking at real people's faces and people have incredible history and character in their faces. And sometimes those pictures kind of like help to feed into the reality of what you're writing, right? Um, yeah, in the beginning, I think all the characters are kind of like you get a glimmer here and there, but then when you really know about them, you kind of go back and rewrite a lot. So at one point, for example, Abbas's wife, Coco, who's in this book, she's the mother. She just disappeared because I kind of forgot about her. So when I finished the draft of the book, I was like, "Oops, forgot mom. What's going on with mom?" And then I was like, "Okay, yeah. So she's married to this guy. She really hates him. What's she doing? She's super rich. Oh, she does a lot of yoga. She goes on silent retreats, and she's just checked out of the family." So I went back and I wove that thread through, Yeah.
So with the pictures, if this were to turn into a TV show or a movie, are you
Yeah.
ready to go with your cast? Do you pick like celebrities for faces or just any faces on the internet?
No, I just went for the most compelling faces. So if anybody from Bollywood is listening to your podcast, your channel, Priyanka Chopra is a Indian actress, and I chose her for Farhan, because she's kind of sexy and sort of mean and dangerous. So I had Priyanka up on my board. Yeah, actually, the book has been optioned by a major streamer for a limited series, and
Congratulations.
there's a movie star, South Asian movie star attached, and that's all I can say right now. But they're gonna do their own thing. They do their own thing and cast it. But I feel like I'm in good hands with them. So
We can tag your choice. You never know.
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I had certain like actresses in mind for the audiobook that I would have loved to have. But they were busy, they were actresses, so but we still ended up with fantastic voices on the audiobook. Yeah.
Wealth and moral compromise. That's a big theme kind of through it, even like especially when they're sitting around the table and you get the cousins and everybody has that in there. Um, was that on purpose? I guess that's kind of a hard question to ask. Like, did you start out? I mean, I guess I picked it up too, just because I think about if I won the lottery, and I had all
Yeah.
this money, everybody would come sneaking in, and that's
Yeah.
but it is kind of a big thing. I mean, this is a very privileged family.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that's one of the reasons that I chose to tell the story from Ali's point of view, because he's an outsider. So he comes from a wealthy family in Mumbai, but it's a different level of wealth, right? Like his dad has some factories, but the Khans have like a private like investment arm that just deals with their money, and they have helicopters and estates, and they're super wealthy. So I chose Ali as kind of an outsider, and we see this family through his eyes. And then we see his journey into the family where he begins to really realize who he's married into and what is asked of him, right? And how his character begins to like change and deform, and he's kind of forced to grow up. So yeah, there's a family, and then there's the kind of the viewpoint of the family. And again, I kind of grew up in a family where you'd have 30 people sitting around a table, and they were all part of the same family business. So people would be like jockeying for position and for the approval of the patriarch of the family. So I kind of grew up around that, and it's just so much fun when you have a big system of people, right? With like one person at the head of it that's providing approval. Those kind of dynamics come forth naturally, and then as an author, you just have to kind of follow them.
Only he starts out, I mean, he's ornery and he's lazy and he's a little feisty and he's a little dirty, he has this, but
Yeah,
he actually like he finds his way into a good, I mean, he didn't really I like when he got his first suit, like how he's coming into it and then he decides to straighten up and fly right. Well, you know.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, Ali's kind of a bit of a sad guy because he's the younger son. He's a mess. He has an older brother who went to Harvard Business School and already has a family and a startup and is like kind of on the ball. And it's like you see the younger child of the family, especially for sons. And Ali knows he's not going to inherit anything, and he's like not really taken seriously. So when he goes to New York, and in fact his mother says to him, like, you're not gonna make it in this country, you're too soft. So go to America. And Abbas Khan has these two daughters, she's pretty sexist, and she's like, the two daughters are no good. They're not sons, so he needs a son. You can be the heir. And Abbas pays Ali attention and flatters him, right? And kind of and has a suit made for him. And Ali has not had that kind of attention from his dad before. So he really begins to like Abbas and bond with him. And Abbas at the same time, even though he's a bit monstrous, grew up in Mumbai, and Ali grew up in Mumbai. And it's kind of interesting because like with generations that come to America, you're like, oh, I grew up in the old country. I'm tough. And my own kids who I've given all these advantages to are sort of soft. They don't have what it takes. And so he likes Ali because Ali, even though Ali's is a mess, he's just kind of like, oh, this kid grew up the way I did. So the two of them bond. So there's some genuine affection there in the midst of all the manipulation and kind of all the scheming.
So you've talked quite a bit about writing at various stages. When did you decide you wanted to be a writer?
Oh, that's a really good question. I come from a family of storytellers and bullshit artists, so like nobody's ever had like a normal day. Everybody comes home at the end of the day and tells these wild stories, right? I kind of grew up around that. But when I came to the States for undergraduate, I have a degree in economics. And I was like, okay, you got to make your life in this country. You got to get a job. You got to do something practical. So I was always reading. I've always loved books. I've always written. I was the editor of my school newspaper back in India. But it was never an option for me to be a writer. So I was like, okay, I want to do something creative. What's the next best thing? I'll be an architect. And I became an architect. And then I found myself like deep into the career, like managing projects and wearing a suit and like dealing with lawyers and contracts. And I was like, oh, this is not why I'm in here. And I think you kind of come to a stage, for me, it was like pretty late in life, in my late 30s. I was like, I always wanted to write, so now's the time. Like, if you don't do it now, you can't do it. And I was living in Boston at the time, and Grub Street, which is a writer's center, was just starting up. It's a very well established, very well regarded writer's center in Boston that now has amazing facilities and classrooms and everything. Back then, they didn't even have that. They were just starting out. And I joined one of the first like high level writing courses at Grub Street. And I liked my teacher so much, I just kept going back and signing up for a class. And there was a bunch of us, like 12 of us, who just did that for 3 or 4 years. And I became part of a community of writers. And my teacher, Jenna Blum, who I'm still in touch with. In fact, I just talked to her a few days ago. She was a very great teacher because she had an MFA and was a great writer, but she always said, you have to think about the reader. Like, how is the reader experiencing your novel, right? We always talk about like writers and inspiration and expressing yourself, but like, how does the reader experience the novel? So I got kind of trained in a very kind of particular way. And so once I became part of that community of writers, writing began to become real for me. But then I published a couple of crime novels. Then my editor left her press. My agency that I was represented by went belly up spectacularly. And I was like orphaned. And I just spent the last 10 years kind of teaching writing and writing novels. And this is like Killing the Family, I think is the fourth novel I wrote in these 10 years. So it's been a kind of a long journey, and I think that I've really been sustained by teaching, especially undergraduates who are just lovely young people who are so talented and so inspiring to be around. And I've gotten much better as a writer because when you have to teach people how to write a novel, which is a very amorphous thing, and there's no one size fits all, and you have to kind of encourage them. You
Mhm.
kind of you become more and more cognizant of like, oh, what really works. So it's been a long journey, and just not easy. And I'm glad I embarked upon it in my when I was later in life when I had a bit of a sense of self, so I could kind of be buffered by I could survive like 10 years of not being public.
What does your family think of you being a writer? Because as you said, the family expectations are huge.
Yeah.
What do they think of you being a writer?
Oh boy, I think they're kind of puzzled. But I've always been like the slightly crazy one. You're like, oh, we don't know what Amin's going to be up to. He has a degree in economics. I worked for Citibank for a while. I was like, no, I'm going to be an architect. And I was an architect. I was like, no, I don't like. I don't. I want to build big buildings. So I left America. I went to Singapore and I worked as an architect there. And there was a crazy building boom going on when it was designing like condos and skyscrapers and new cities and stuff. And then I came back. I was like, nah, I'm finally going to be writing. So I think they're like, okay, he's a bit nuts. That's who he is. Um, so I have come to it having gone through many different experiences, but I think I'm really grateful for it. And I'm grateful to have like my a project manager professional persona when I have to like deal with like contracts or I have to deal with like professional stuff.
So you said your first two novels were crime fiction, and now
Yeah.
we're like in like a thriller, family drama kind of thing.
Yeah.
You feel like you've hit your stride. Are you happier here, or will you try something else?
Yeah, I think I'm an odd guy. I just like write whatever I like to write, and then it's got to be fit into a genre, right? I think that it is though liberating as an immigrant writer to write with some kind of a genre because the immigrant stories have been told and told so well about coming to this country, about cultural misunderstanding, about trying to fit in. So that really doesn't interest me. I find like using genre elements in my work is very liberating because it kind of opens up the storytelling possibilities. So yeah, I think that whatever I write, I think it's been called psychological suspense, domestic suspense, this book. I do, yeah, I used to think that you needed to come up with like a really unique plot for a thriller, but I've become very interested in characters. So I'm some combination of like really interesting characters and and some genre elements that will make it like a page turner. And after being a writer for years, like I don't want to do the work. I want to pick up the book and I will read the first page and that's what you got. And you don't have me in the first page. I'm not reading this. I'm not doing the work, right? Because I can turn on Netflix and there's like 20 great things out there. Um, so I really do like books that kind of that they don't necessarily have to start with a bang, but there has to be something about it. So the voice, the way the author looks at the world can be so compelling and so intimate. And I think that's what fiction does so well is like the kind of quiet authority of a novel that says like, come on, I'm going to tell you a story. Come on in. And so I love that.
And the way you started this book with the prologue and the the story with the salt and the organ found in the salt and
Yeah.
That just, caught my attention immediately. So yeah, you did a great job catching me at the first page.
I'm glad. Yeah, I was kind of writing the book, and a friend of mine sent me an article. I already had a kind of a serial killer angle in mind, and she sent me an article about a real article about a human heart that was found in a salt pile. And she's like, I think this is the work of a serial killer. I'm like, I agree. So I thank her for having sent that to me because I hadn't thought of that. So yeah, but they actually did find a heart in a salt pile, and I'm not sure they've solved the mystery of how it got there.
I don't want to find the heart. Of course, I don't think I'd ever be in a salt pile, so we're probably pretty clear. I don't think that's going to happen to me. Honest to Pete, if I were to do that, I'd pass plumb out dead. Done.
Yeah,
I'm not,
yes, yes, yes. No, that's it's. I mean, I'm not one for like grisly details, and I'm not like attracted to like extreme stuff. But this seemed too good a detail to pass up. You know.
so what's next for you?
This is a two-book deal with Holt, so I have a book due in December. Wish me luck. I'm working away on it. Um, and it's a completely different book. It's a standalone, not a continuation of this, but it's about the fashion industry and a murder that happens in the fashion industry in India, and an Indian American journalist goes down there to kind of investigate.
So is there going to be a continuation of this one?
I would love for that because when I finished this book, I thought I was going to be really depressed because I was trying to pull off a lot of plot strands. So it was just like kind of tight wire act, high wire act right till the end when I was like, I'm going to be so relieved when I finish writing Killer in the Family. And then I was done and I got seriously depressed. And this happens to some of my friends too. We call it writer's postpartum after you're done with the book. But I really like these people and I like this world, and it's in huge contrast to my world, which is small town Durham, North Carolina, where not a lot is going on. It's a very pleasant place, but it's not a lot going on. And I love that world. I got really depressed. So I have ideas for a sequel. And I kind of periodically wonder what these people are up to. Um, and I like trilogies. I like things that sort of continue, you know. So maybe I'll get a chance down the line to write it. I would love that.
This could stop. I mean, you could leave it, but I can see my head can plan a whole lot of things going on still.
Really, really,
Oh
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean the way I ended the story was kind of like, okay, there's this one arc of these people is coming to an end, but another arc is starting, right?
Mhm.
And I tried many different endings for the story, and this is the one that felt most true to me because like they've kind of revealed their true natures to each other, um, and they're kind of together at the end. But what comes next? You know, because this family is not stopping. You know, there's more accumulation of wealth, there's more accumulation of power. Um, and I would love to write for this in the sequel. I'd love to. I had this idea of Abbas Khan, seeing him as a young guy in the 70s showing up in like 1970s New York with his sidekick and how he makes his first, does his first few real estate deals. And he does some stuff that comes back to haunt Ali like decades later when Ali takes over the business. He doesn't realize there's something that's from the past is still on the books. So it could be like two different timelines. It could be Ali and the Khans right now, and then Abbas and his sidekick showing up in 1970s New York. I would love to write 1970s New York with like disco and flared pants and like the music and the city as a total mess, and these two dudes show up. So I have that image in my mind. Yeah.
So this book comes out on April 7th.
Yeah.
Do you have any special plans for Pub Day or Pub Week?
Yeah. It seemed like so far in the distance and now it's here. So we're having a launch party here and it's in Durham, and I have my friends and my colleagues from the English department at Duke and my students coming, and we're gonna have some wine and some Indian street food, and I'm gonna chat a little bit about the book, and we're gonna celebrate. I mean, these things happen so few and far between, you know. It's kind of like I always joke like a book reading is like you see the kind of people you see at your wedding from like all different walks of life.
Mhm.
People show up, people you haven't seen in a while. So I think that's the really fun part. And I'm lucky enough to have lived in New York and Washington, D.C. So we're doing some book events there, and I'm really excited to see old friends. And then the book's also coming out in the UK, so I'm going to go to London and do a small book launch there with I have a bunch of
Nice.
family and friends there. So it's like it's going to be great to see all these people that I haven't seen in a while, and especially my fellow writers who are really like, my support group, and we encourage each other and we hold the light for each other. Because when you go through dark periods, of doubt, and somebody's like, "Nah, man, you've been here before," and like, they read your manuscripts for you. So I'm really looking forward to reconnecting with all my writer friends. Yeah.
So I forgot that you were in Durham.
Yeah.
How did you feel about that basketball game?
Ooh, ooh, I could not believe. I mean, could you make that up?
I,
Could you make up that narrative? I was watching it and I was like, oh. And it was just so depressing because you need to think about it because I teach at Duke, and the players are my students' age. These are not adults, right? These are people who are young, very young men and women, right? And you kind of forget that when you see them on the screen, right? Because they're playing and there's millions of people cheering, and I felt terrible for the Duke team, and I just felt terrible for these poor kids to live that. But hopefully they have enough time ahead of them and they can bounce back from it. I also have a son who's like roughly the same age, so I just feel terrible for these guys.
my dad calls me as soon as the game is over, and he said, "Finally." So
Yeah,
there is a Kentucky game where
yeah,
Christian Leitner shoots that shot, the shot heard
that's
around the
right.
world, and he
That's
said,
right.
"Oh, please let it stop. Maybe Duke will take over now, and we won't have to hear it."
Yes,
Every year we hear about the
yes,
shot heard around the world. So,
right.
Kentucky fingers are crossed that we don't
Yeah.
have to do it anymore.
Right. No, I think you're right. The narrative has been another story has taken the place of the old story. And it's so interesting how we kind of it leads me to think about how we narrativize our lives, right? And right now I'm at the stage where I have a book coming out. So like 10 years of not being published is like I spent 10 years in the publishing wilderness, and it was I really honed my skill and I was so resilient, and now I have a book coming out. It's so great. Like that's the kind of the narrative you can say, right? But like a couple of like even 2 years ago, I was just a guy with like a bunch of novels on my hard drive. So the narrative has changed, and then maybe the narrative will change again. So that's one thing I like. I try and keep in my mind is like life is like how you tell the story, and it's kind of the narrative you ascribe to it.
Is there any place that we can get, and anybody that's watching it can get a signed copy, or do you have like a local bookstore that we can direct them to, or where they will be?
Yeah, they could contact Flyleaf Books in North Carolina in Durham, and they have a program where I can sign copies, and it can get sent to readers. So Flyleaf Books,
Okay.
um, yeah, yeah, in I think they're at Durham or Chapel Hill, North Carolina. Yeah, absolutely.
Where can people find you on social media and find out about your book events and this book and then the next one coming out later this year?
Thank you for asking. My website is Amin Ahmad Books, Amin, and then my last name Ahmad Books. And then I'm on the same name and Instagram. It's at Amin Ahmad Books. Yeah, so please follow me. We're pretty active on Instagram and always posting things. And my son, who's 25, is a filmmaker, so I'm having really father son fun. We made a little book trailer, and we're making like little ads for the book and putting reels on Instagram. And I'm really grateful to have a younger person who's tuned into that sensibility because I'm long-winded. I'm a novelist, and he's like, no, 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 10, 15 seconds. That's it. I'm like, really?
That's all you got. That's all you
That's
got.
all you got. Like a minute is a long time. Well, we know from basketball, like 10 seconds is a very long time.
Yes.
I'm glad you said Durham at the very end so I can catch
Yeah.
you on that.
Yeah, absolutely. You got me. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Well, I mean, thank you for coming on here and talking to us.